attorney and preserve the attorney-client privilege pursuant to General Statute 143-318.11A, 1, A3, A5, and A6.
There's a motion on the table. Any discussion or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oh, second. I'm sorry, I forgot the second. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. There's a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. We'll be in closed session. We will be back at 6:30 for open session. evening. Can you all hear me? Good evening. I'd like to call the Moore County Board of Education regular business meeting back to order. Do I have an approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. I want to welcome everybody for coming tonight. We have a nice, large crowd here, and it's nice to see so many students and parents here as well. So thank you for making time during a busy part of the year. First item is our Pledge of Allegiance.
I'd like to introduce Trinity Potter, who's a student in Miss Salmon's class at Pinecrest High School, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ready, Billy? And next we have Jillian Edwards, who's a student in Miss Jane Cummings' class at Pinecrest High School.
Hello, I am a student at Pinecrest High School. I moved here from Springfield, New Jersey in May of 2018. This was the first move I had ever made. I was very nervous about moving to a new state, new town, and new school. But most of all, I was very nervous about being the new kid. Looking back a year later, moving was one of the best things that ever happened to me. It has helped me grow as a person. I am really happy to be a part of Pinecrest. I was welcomed warmly on the first day of school. I enjoy being in Miss Cummings' class. I enjoy my classmates and all of my friends. I love telling a joke, and I would like to share a joke with you tonight. Why did the pencil sting?
Why?
Because it was a number 2.
Thank you very much.
Your picture. You want to go over there? If you can't get on this. There you go.
am I supposed to go after that, right? I have no good jokes like that. I'll try my best. If you can please at first join me. Yes, can you please join me in a moment of silence? Thank you. I get the honor today to ask Ms. Deborah Black to please join Chair Wallen Miller and Vice Chair Carter to the front. There she is. Deborah Black was Vass Lakeview's elementary school in this year's month Engage, Inspire, Succeed Certified Staff Honoree. Ms. Black has been a dedicated educator for 30 years, the past 9 at Vass Lakeview Elementary School. During her tenure as an educator, she has served as an M-class trainer, mentor, role model for other teachers. She is certified in elementary education, speech, exceptional children, adaptive curriculum, and early childhood. She has also served on the literacy committee, math committee, school improvement team. Ms. Black has impacted the lives of many students, including my daughters, in her career. She's a dedicated teacher that will surely be missed as she decided, which I was upset, I don't know if I should say this, she decided to retire this year. When asked with her favorite quote, she said, "Alone we can do little, together we can do so much," by Helen Keller. Congratulations, Ms. Black. Would Principal Scott and members of her family please stand up? You will be missed. Allison Douglas, please join Chair Wallen Miller and Vice Chair Carter at the front, please. Allison Douglas is a cafeteria manager at Aberdeen Primary School, but she's also considered a mama, a friend, and a helper to all the students that enter her cafeteria. She has gone above and beyond on numerous occasions in her 2 years as part of the APS family. She has revitalized the garden club area by growing fresh vegetables for students to enjoy, along with planting flowers to help beautify the campus. She has planned and headed our annual Grandparents' Day lunch. Miss Allison amplifies the school's motto, always doing what's best for kids. She's not just one of Aberdeen Primary support staff, she is part of the strong foundation at Aberdeen Primary School. Congratulations, Miss Allison. Would Principal Jackson and any of Miss Douglas's family stand up, please? Krista Gilder, please join Chair Wallen Miller and Vice Chair Carter at the front. Krista Gilder is a member of our Pinecrest Athletic Club Executive Board and the lead coordinator for the PAC annual event. Over a 3-year period, she has helped PAC raise almost $300,000. With a team of PAC members and volunteers, Ms. Gilder orchestrates this social fundraising event that has become and must attend for many community members who normally would not connect with our students, teachers, and coaches. Ms. Gilder is passionate about Pinecrest High School and has helped many of us change to upgrade our facilities, particularly for female athletes. Pinecrest High School is fortunate to have Ms. Gilder as a volunteer. Congratulations, Ms. Gilder. Would Principal Phillips and Ms. Gilder's family please stand? I have a very long list, so please bear with me. Thank you. Madison Pry, please join Chair Wallen Miller and Vice Chair Carter at the front, please. There she is. Madison started her senior year wanting to make a lasting impact on her school. She noticed that lunchtime was a time to relax and sit with her friends, but was concerned for her peers that didn't have anyone to sit with at lunch. Madison established the Patriots Dine Together event, which allows a space for students to link up with a lunch buddy. At the end of April, during Active Kindness Week at Pinecrest, 4 picnic tables in the courtyard were decorated with inspiring quotes to encourage friendship growth as a community as part of the Patriots Dine Together project. Madison is also a leader with the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, a super fan leader, and a member of our national ranked girls soccer team and the state champion bowling team. Congratulations, Madison. Would Principal Phillips and members of the Pry family please stand up to be recognized? Congratulations, Madison. Sorry, I got told to skip something here. Okay. Tommy Hussey, oh, I'm sorry, let me tell you first. Tonight we have a number of additional recognitions of recent substantial accomplishments by students and staff. So it's going to be, if I misspell your name, I apologize. Please correct me if I do, okay? So I do apologize for that. Tommy Hussey, Branson Clendenin, Summer Brady, and I hope I say this right, Shayara Aponte Mayo, Addison Robinson, Coach Derek Cockman, please join Chair Wallenmiller and Vice Chair Carter at the front. As they're heading up here, I'll tell you, this team of students from High Falls Elementary were recently honored with being the statewide winners of North Carolina Department of Transportation Model Bridge Building Competition. This competition is designed to encourage students to develop math and science skills that are used in transportation, construction, and engineering careers. Congratulations to all of you. Would Principal Pope and any members of the team's family please stand to be recognized at this time? Congratulations. And now we will honor 4 teams that achieved statewide recognition at the recent Odyssey of the Mind state tournament, and will now be heading to the Odyssey of the Mind World Finals at Michigan State University later this month. From West Pine Elementary, would Rylan McClowski, Jackson Truckenmiller, David Antle, Connor Cuff, Vaughn Gray, Nora Kuzma, Joe Cottrell, I'm sorry if I say that wrong, and coaches Michelle Cottrell and Paul Kuzma, please join Chair Wallenmiller and Vice Chair at the front. Congratulations, you guys. Would Principal Mary Frances Tintle and the members of the team's families please stand to be recognized? Great job. Yes, good luck, guys. Let's give them another hand. Good job, guys. From West Pine Middle would Sarah Archer, Anna Catherine Foster, Sanam Cobb, Thomas Mann, Lily Wellner, Connor Cottrell. Am I saying your last name right? Is Cottrell. Thank you. And coaches Timothy Thies, Michelle Cottrell. Please join Chair Walla Miller and Vice Chair Carter at the front. Look at those medals. It should tell you all. Yes. Congratulations. Would Principal Massengill and members of the team's family please stand to be recognized and take your pictures? Good job, guys. Let's give them another hand. From Pinecrest High School would Gavin Poller, Caitlin Poller, Courtney Gibbs, Jackie Gibbs, Jonathan Furman, Ava Wellner, and Kimberly Coach Poller please join Chair Walla Miller and Vice Chair Carter at the front? Congratulations. Would Principal Phillips and members of the families please stand up to be recognized as well? Great job, guys. Congratulations to all our Odyssey of the Mind participants. Good job. Hi. I did.
Which one is this one? Okay. Congratulations. 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 So which one is this one? No, this one.
All right, let me call him. Can I have this? Thank you. Just in, late breaking news. I'm sorry, guys. I missed a middle school team. West Pine Middle 8th grade team, Matthew Goodman, Smith Hoover, Claude Morris, Bryce Niedenthal, Gabe Richmond, and Marco Wellner. Coaches Laura Goodman, Andy Wellner, and C.S. Morris. And the faculty sponsor, Scott Mage. Can you please come to the front? Thank you. Sorry about that.
And one more time. Congratulations. 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 Oh, one more time.
All right, let's make sure I have everybody here. This year, Moore County Schools has a distinction of having 3 graduating seniors who will be awarded an associate's degree from Sandhills Community College prior to crossing the stage at their respective high schools. Here are Caleb Kimpler, Haley Kissel from Union Pines High School, and Kaylee Williamson from Northmore High School. Can you please come up to the front? Congratulations to all. Is Principal McCormick here and Miss Purvis, if you would like to stand up to be recognized as well, and family members, thank you. Congratulations. Congratulations. Lastly, this is the time of year when we honor our professional staff who have earned advanced degrees. We take pride in our teachers and staff who continually advance their professional development in the field of education. As I call your name, please join Chair Wallen Miller and Vice Chair Carter at the front. Doug Massengill got a doctorate. He's West Pine Middle. Kelly Priest, master's at West Pine Elementary. Lauren Strickland, master's at Carthage Elementary. Michael Swarford, master's at Southern Middle. Michelle Bennett, doctorate at Vast Lakeview Elementary. Desiree Campagne, doctorate at West End Elementary. Kim Coleman, doctorate at Southern Middle. Marlena Evans, master's at Robbins Elementary. Congratulations to each one of you. This concludes our recognitions for this evening.
Ryan not here?
Oh. Just get back on. She's. Oh.
I just want to say how exciting it is to acknowledge our staff and students at the end of the year like this with some really exciting accomplishments. So it's very gratifying to see that happen. So I'm glad they were able to make it this evening. All right, Dr. Grimacy, a program highlight for this evening.
Yeah, Madam Chairman, tonight we have a presentation from
I'm
the...
sorry, I'm just getting notice that they cannot hear you at all, so if you're going to need to, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Chair is adjusting her microphone in response to customer demand. Here.
How about that?
A little closer to your...
I need to go like this?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll do
All right.
With your permission, Madam Chair?
Thank you, Dr. Grimacy.
Yes, at this time, we have a presentation by the Student Advisory Council to the Superintendent. This is an annual presentation that the Advisory Council makes as a summary of its year. I will allow Dr. Seth Powers to offer the formal presentation, introduction. I'm sorry, Seth.
Thank you, Dr. Grimacy, Chair Wallen Miller, members of the board. It's my pleasure tonight to share with you the work of our Student Advisory Council this year. We're so fortunate in Moore County to have such great secondary students to work with, and I never fail to be amazed at the great feedback, thought that they put into the different issues that we bring before them, and so they definitely help to make our school district a better place. So I would like to ask members of our Student Advisory Council that are here tonight, if you would, to please come up and join me, if you'll just stand over behind me. I'm going to share a little bit of information about our Student Advisory Council, of course, introduce all of our students who participated this year. We did invite them all to attend tonight. We had around 30 members this year. They couldn't all be here, but we do have a good representation with us tonight, and they're going to be sharing some information with you as well about their work this year. But I would like to start just by introducing them, and I'm going to ask those who are here, when I call your name, if you would just step out and wave to everybody so they know who you are. I'll start with our high school members from Union Pines High School: Morgan Adams, Carlos Beltran de la Sancha, Emily Davis, Faith McLean, Aiden Patterson, Mandy Taylor, Emma Thomas, Will Fernandez. From Pinecrest High School, Sarah Costanza, John Cox, James Jefferson, John McCrimmon, and Carson Van Scoyoc. From Northmore High School, Nadia Brower, Charlotte Davis, Alex Escamilla, Jasmine Tanner, and from CLC, Jaden Stuckey. Our Student Advisory Council is made up of not only high school students, but also middle grade students as well. So from New Century Middle School, Jenny Ballou, William Shaper. From Southern Middle, Catherine Roberts, Shakira Spencer, From West Pine Middle, Kerrigan Holt. From Cranes Creek Middle, Damon Bremer, Ashlyn George, and Karina Garcia. From Elise Middle, Ashlyn Cardoza and Kale Freeze. And finally, from our 2K8 schools, High Falls, Sierra Garner and Neil Sewell. And from Westmore, Brendan Weiss and Riley Wilson. These students gave up a couple of hours 4 times throughout the year to come to the central office and meet with myself, Assistant Director for Student Support Services Lucinda Dedman, and Dr. Grimacy. Always had great conversations, and of course, although our agendas were structured, there were I had time to get feedback from students about things that they valued and things they wanted to see changed. But just to give you an idea of some of our meeting topics, you can see that some of the feedback we received from them was on the innovative year-round calendar that we're now considering. We talked about budget, also about diversity. The thing that drove the majority of our meetings and that we focused on for much of our time during our 2 hours together quarterly was equity this year. And we really decided, we thought it would be a good idea to have some equity audits around some of the different things that we do in our district and to get the students' perspective on those things. So the areas that we audited for equity were discipline, the Youth Risk Behavior Survey results from the spring of 2017, our PBIS initiative and the matrices at the different schools, as well as trauma and resilience. So at this time, I'm going to let a couple of the students from each group have an area. They're going to come up and share some of their thoughts, what they learned, and give you some of their feedback. And we're going to start with Mandy Taylor and Morgan Adams, and they're going to share with you information about equity in discipline.
Hello, my name is Mandy Taylor, and this is Morgan Adams. We're both students at Union Pines, and during the 2018-2019 Superintendent Student Advisory Council, we discussed a bunch of different topics, and ours that we had to put more thought into is concerning the equity in school discipline. And through analyzing student discipline data, we noticed that African American students face a disproportionate amount of in-school and out-of-school referrals and consequences, such as, such as in-school and out-of-school suspensions based on the racial demographic makeups and student populations. And we came together and decided some recommendations that would help lower those numbers or balance them out throughout all racial demographics within the schools. And I came up with determining punishment based on the student situations and the teachers' reactions to the students rather than only looking at what they did. Because right now there isn't much of a gap between when the student did the infraction and whenever their consequences given. It's just automatic, oh, you get this, you get that. You don't really take much time to look back into it. So I think there should be more time spent looking into the student situations, like what they were going through that day or what pushed them to carry out that action, and then also look into why the teacher reacted in such a way as they did. And I think that looking into why the teacher reacted so much can go a long way into making the discipline more equal and level out the discipline that was given.
Hello. I'm not really good at talking into microphones. I like to just talk out loud, so sorry. Once a punishment is determined, we thought that, and after breaking down the situation, we think that there should be a reconstruction environment where the student's relationship and the school environment is encouraged. And this can start with a program that helps build the student's confidence in class, and they can work with their teachers and also utilize the counselors that the school has. And this can be an alternative to ISS, where you're usually just told to go into a classroom, that's your ISS detention area, and just be quiet and do your work. Again, this can help the students rehabilitate by talking to the counselors and additionally getting to the root of the problem and realizing what was wrong in the situation, what they could have done differently, and how can they improve the relationship with their teacher and with school and with their schoolwork. And that can also reduce discipline and make issues with consequences more fair. We understand that respect is earned and not given. One party has to start on that higher road, though, and give that initial respect. And when talking to students, especially high schoolers, that if you talk down on them, it might signal that you don't expect much from them, and in return, those students just act that way and don't really act up to how you think that they should be. And, hold on. Oh, yes. And then in a classroom setting, if you do this, like give the student respect first, this could prevent unneeded and unfair discipline that is given. So that's all that we have for y'all.
Thank you.
Faith McLean, Carlos Beltran de la Sancha, and Carson Van Scoyock are going to talk to us about what they learned in Equity and Positive Behavior Intervention and Supports, which is better known as PBIS.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Carlos Beltran. This is Carson Van Scoyock and Faith McLean. It's been a real honor to serve on this year's Superintendent Student Advisory Council. And as a senior, you know, it's your last year of high school. You really start to see everything that has developed up to this point, your last year of school, all the changes that happen in your school. Something that has really come into play in these past couple of years is something called PBIS, which stands for Positive Behavior Intervention and Support. This has been a big topic that we have discussed in meetings with the Advisory Council. We had a whole meeting about PBIS. A couple of points that we touched on in that meeting were how we need to enforce PBIS if we want it to work, and how we need to get people on board, and that we need to teach open discussion as to why PBIS is a good thing.
As Carlos has just stated, it is important to understand what PBIS is actually about. One important discussion about this system is that of equity. We need to ensure that the PBIS system is equitable among all Moore County schools, and that each student can receive all the benefits of this system. The important part of ensuring that this happens is discerning the difference between equity and equality. Equity, though very similar to equality, has a few very key differences that make it a better way to enforce PBIS. While equality makes sure that everybody has the same resources, equity ensures that everybody receives the resources they need to achieve the same goal. To achieve at the same level, certain students may need more resources than others, and it is imperative that we give them the resources they need to all be successful. This is what will create a better system, and schools with PBIS will be tremendously successful.
Now we understand that there can be difficulties in implementing PBIS, such as like students may not cooperate, teachers may not cooperate, and sometimes it can even be overused or underused. Equity in PBIS focuses on establishing consistent expectations for behaviors in all areas of school, and it focuses on communicating those expectations to the students in a positive way, of course. This can help to build and support positive relationships between teachers and students. If staff and students understand the PBIS process, and if it is implemented correctly, it can help to reduce equity gaps in student discipline. We hope that we have helped you all to understand more the importance of PBIS, or positive behavior intervention and support, and its effects on school culture. Thank you all for your time and your support.
Thank you.
Okay, Aiden Patterson and Sarah Costanza are going to talk with us about equity in youth risk behaviors.
So as previously said, I'm Sarah Costanza and this is Aiden Patterson. Our group will be sharing a breakdown and analysis of the data collected from the 2017 Youth Risk Behavior Survey. We could conclude from the data that Moore County Schools is statistically average in nearly all areas when compared to other school systems and national data, with a few slight exceptions. We've elected to narrow the survey down into a few key topics addressed within it that are major talking points in today's world. We also looked into the demographics to see if there was a pattern that might impact equity among students. The first big, major area that we chose to address was bullying and violence. It was found that statistically Moore County Schools was about average in bullying on school property and online. In terms of physical altercations, Moore County Schools was statistically below average by around 4 points. Middle schools saw similar statistics, but the average of cyberbullying was less than the state average. For both middle and high schools, Moore County Schools was above average by a significant amount in the number of students reporting that they had carried a weapon, such as a gun, knife, or club to school in the past 30 days of high school and middle school. Demographically, weapon carrying is higher among males, with 35% of white males, 32% of Hispanic males, and 14% of African American males saying yes to carrying a weapon in the last 30 days, but not necessarily to school. Society tends to portray black males as more likely to carry a weapon, but the Moore County Schools Youth Risk Behavior Survey has shown that that perception is inaccurate and is likely due to stereotyping. The next major topic that we chose to address was depression and suicide, which is a really large topic in today's modern America. In terms of mental health, Moore County Schools was equivalent to national and state data, with 14% of students indicating that they had made a plan to attempt suicide. In terms of general depression, Moore County Schools ranked higher than the state average and equivalent to the national average at 31%. We were also similar in numbers of suicide attempts. At the middle school level, Moore County Schools was lower in every category pertaining to attempted suicide, planning how they would do it, in consideration of the act. Demographically, Hispanic females have higher rates of reported depression at 36%, and white females have the highest rates reported of creating a plan for suicide at 17%.
So I was tasked with the use of illicit substances, which includes drug usage, vape usage, and alcohol usage in Moore County schools. And what I found is the average consumption of alcohol among high school students is as expected as the national equivalency, as well as in categories such as drinking within 30 days of the survey was given. Moore County school students were less, did not use it as equivalent. In terms of drug usage, however, Moore County Schools appears to have used drugs at a lower rate than both state and national categories, other than its equivalents on terms of being offered to sold and on drugs and property, meaning that drugs were offered at the same equivalency as a national average. It appears that those surveyed, the highest drug usage was in direct correlation with marijuana, which still was lower than the national and state average by much as 3 points. However, Moore County Schools is ranked nearly 12 points higher than the national average for use of vaping products and 3 points when compared to the state. This statistic was not really surprising to me because as a student, you can see the usage of vape products, and it has increased. And I think when the 2019 survey that we took earlier this week will reveal that it has actually increased drastically with the usage and availability to students. So I think that should be a key point for Moore County Schools to focus on this year, is getting the use of electronic cigarettes out of the hands of students. The use of vapes appears to have a much greater concentration in Hispanic males. It's as much as 56% of the population of Hispanic males in Moore County schools. I think it's far as to say that based off the personal observations that the use of vapes is increasing as significantly. But we do have solutions for this. We feel that based off the statistics, students should be exposed to mental health benefits at a young age. We'll go into with equity and trauma and resilience. We went over in the council meetings of the effects of introducing these concepts to students at a younger age. Like we watched a video where students were introduced to it at a kindergarten level, and that demographic area showed lower rates of drug usage, all types of things like that. Many students are not willing to sit down with an educator or person they do not feel comfortable with, but it can be inferred that mental health of students directly correlates with their physical ability, involvement in illicit substances, and relationships with their peers. Ideally, they should be informed of the implications of their own actions. Along with this, I would encourage the start of an initiative to inform the parents, meaning all of us sitting in the crowd, as well as students, to learn the signs of mental depression and express and talk with their students, not just say, hey, they're just sitting there, nothing's wrong with them. I would definitely encourage, because once we can start having that conversation to where we can talk with our students and be open about it, we'll likely see the decline in these use of these substances to combat mental illness. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And finally, our last group, James Jefferson was not able to be with us this evening, but Will Fernandez is, and he's going to take the whole show here.
Okay, my name is Will Fernandez, and I represent the group that has worked to share our thoughts related to trauma and resiliency. During our work on the Superintendent Student Advisory Council this year, we became aware of research that was done on traumatic situations people faced in the home as children and how those experiences can affect their life later as they grow. There's a way to measure these experiences, and it's called your ACE score, and that's short for Adverse Childhood Experiences. And so it's a list of 10 questions to which you answer yes or no. You receive 1 point on the test for every answer. Example of a question is, did a parent or adult in the household often or very often swear at you, insult you, put you down, or humiliate you? Another is, did someone in the home act in a way that made you afraid you might be physically hurt? If your ACE score is 6 or higher, meaning you answered yes to 6 of the questions, studies have shown that you are at a risk of a lifespan shortened up to 20 years, and children with high ACE scores are more prone to having hyperactive symptoms and illnesses. Adults with high ACE scores are more prone to violence, to have more marriages and more health issues such as heart disease, obesity, more prescriptions, or depression. Also, although research shows that ACEs are common among all racial and socioeconomic groups, children who grow up in poverty often have higher ACE scores. So, what can we do to help these children who may be suffering from the effects of adverse childhood experiences? Nadine Burke-Harris, a pediatrician in San Francisco, and Sandhills Pediatrics here in our community have been administering ACE tests to children and doing things to help them in the office, such as counseling. Also, some schools in our district are receiving specialized training and becoming more trauma aware. There's this one program we learned about where elementary school age children were told by their teachers of this fictional lady who wanted to help the children at school any way she could. Of course, the children thought she was real. The children would have the opportunity to write letters about what was going wrong in their life to this lady and drop them in a box to be delivered. This let the teachers and researchers studying ACEs see things that were happening in these children's lives that they would have otherwise not known about. The school had a partnership with a counseling clinic who would then write helpful, encouraging letters back to the children. The whole process helps those children get help they need to get past these childhood traumas. Although we don't have a program like this in Moore County schools, I think it would be a good idea for our school system to implement systems like this in early grades, because you never know what someone is going through, and you never know how you might help to make their life that much better. In conclusion, since we don't truly know what kind of traumatic experience the students may be going through, when students in our schools are having difficulty with this behavior, other schools should stop thinking what is wrong with you and start thinking what happened to you in order to better support the mental health of the students. Thank you.
So you could see students worked very hard this year, very proud of them. And that concludes our presentation. If there are any questions or comments, we'll certainly hear those at this time.
Dr. Powers, if I could you just advise the board as to what is done with the input from the Student Advisory Committee? You know, it's nice that they gave these nice presentations tonight, but does it end there? Where does it go from here?
No, from there, we'll use the feedback that they've given us, as especially, it could be any department, but especially a lot of what we talked about tonight directly relates to the Office for Student Support Services, and we'll certainly use that information. You heard Aiden say, we just took a youth risk behavior survey, our own district survey, this past week. It'll be interesting to see how that comes back, make some comparisons between that data and the data that we have from 2017. As we think about additional mental health supports, like what Will was sharing at the end with, some of the play therapy with some of the elementary students, what could we do to possibly think about how we might implement some of those programs in Moore County schools. The one he talked about specifically is the kind of the Miss Kendra program, which is very, very expensive. Wish we could do something like that, but there are other options or things that we could do. So just great feedback and things we'll definitely use. We don't just sit and talk and listen and say, oh, thank you so much and see you next year. We actually do use it. It's great feedback.
How does it align with what the staff is thinking about or recommended from their review of the survey data?
And
the students' ideas and solutions, does it align with what staff have been thinking about and considering when they review the data?
It actually does. It's amazing, and I'm always amazed when we listen to our students and the things that they tell us, and so many times they give us things that maybe it's maybe something similar to what we're thinking about doing, and so a lot of times they give us great ideas that we hadn't thought about. But again, the fact that I think that we have the data now to be able to go back and look at where we haven't had that in the past is just going to be huge, helping us going forward.
Madam Chair, if I could add to that, I think if there's one distinction between the students and the adults is the students can't understand why we don't move faster.
True.
There's usually a little bit more urgency from the students than sometimes there is among the adults. And so they sort of prod us and move us along. Correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Correct. And you heard, again, you heard Aiden talk about the fact of what they discovered about the vaping. And, not just, they looked at the data from what it looked like 2 years ago, and now they're thinking, okay, this has been 2 years ago, and now I see what's happening at school every day. We're interested to see what the data is going to show us now, and odds are it probably has gone up. And what are we going to do about that? So that's on us now to fix that.
And that's important too. You can complain all you want, but give options of what you can do to help it make it better is what we really need. So I appreciate you guys. Public speaking is hard, and you guys did an amazing job too. I don't know if you have done that before, but you guys did a great job.
Very good.
Well, I just want to extend my thanks and for your time, for all of you students that you took to do something above and beyond your regular school day and to provide some real valuable insights to data that adults look at, and it's really helpful to see your perceptions of it. If there are no other comments or questions, I would love to have them come by, and so we can thank you for your time and just shake your hands one by one. Not here, but it's obviously I can see that parents would have some interest in that, but we would love to hear your questions at another time, and I don't want to put these students on the spot. Can you come forward and we can?
Will, if you don't mind, you can just.
Yep.
Come on back. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. Denise, you graduated?
Oh, this deal. Great job. Great job. Great
For those that might have questions about what the students have presented today, we'd welcome any emails. You can see us after the meeting, and we can see how we can answer your questions. But thank you for making that notation. We do have a consent agenda today. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion or comments? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. The superintendent does not have a report this evening.
Madam Chairman, yes, out of recognition for the number of awards and presentations we had this evening, I've deferred on a report for this month.
All right, we will go into public comment.
We are now at the public comment period of our meeting. Speakers will be called in the order in which they signed up. Presentations are limited to 3 minutes per person. This is also a business meeting. We have other matters to take action on here today. So unless you are speaking during public comment, please remain quiet so that this business may be conducted. Whatever topic you choose to address, please remember that this is a public meeting of a governmental body. As with all such meetings, it is important that we preserve order and decorum. Please also remember that we are a public school system and children are in attendance or watching from home. I ask that we all model civility and respect in our words and actions today. All points of view are welcome, but insults and personal attacks are not appropriate. Our public comments policy prohibits us from responding to speakers. The purpose of public comment is for us to hear your points of view, not to engage in a back and forth. The timer on the screen will indicate how much time each speaker has left. In fairness to others who wish to speak, it is important that each person stop as soon as their time has expired. I'd like to call the names of the first 5 speakers and ask that you come down to the front row so that we might expedite this process. Laurie Ann Davis, Maria Williams, Jan Williams, John Zumwalt, Cal Castleberry. So Laurie Ann Davis may take the front.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to share with you tonight about Elise Middle School and the unique opportunities that it presents to the students that we serve. When you come to Elise, you're joining a family led by educators dedicated to teaching and growing their students. I could talk about how we have met or exceeded our goals for growth for 5 years, or even how we fared on our latest report card. But I'd rather talk to you about what happens every day, week, month, and school year in our classrooms. Our family strives not just to educate, but to broaden the horizons of the students we're entrusted with every year beyond our classroom walls. If you were to look into a classroom on our campus, you might find Moorhead Planetarium working with the students to extract their DNA, creating elephant toothpaste, or designing and testing prototypes for rover landing gear. Our DIF, Ms. Carrie Robledo, might be working with students using Google Glasses to explore World War II or travel through the geologic time zones. They may be using Merge VR to study the human body or create water filtration systems. Our instructional coach, Ms. Angie Corrado, she may be leading the students through a breakout EDU or modeling how students can use defined strategies to help boost their learning. Students may be using their computers to research their next book topic or unit of study to build their background knowledge, or they may be collaborating together to create posters to teach each other about the sites they'll be visiting in Washington, D.C. In CTE classes, you might find them listening to members of the community discuss various career paths in music, learning all about African instruments, in art, creating those next masterpieces. Or you might find them in PE learning the fundamentals of different games. You might see students sitting at conventional desks. They could be grouped at tables or sitting on exercise balls, wobble stools, or at bistro tables because we use innovative seating in several classrooms. Or you might just find them lying on the floor working or reading a book. Outside the classroom, you'll find the Northern Moore Junior Band playing at the Carowinds Festival of Music or marching in the Robbins Christmas Parade. You can cheer for the staff or the students in the highly competitive, and the teachers did have their revenge, game of volleyball and basketball. You can find them listening to a visiting author, arranged compliments of the Country Bookstore and the Amber Brown Foundation. We learned all about the flamenco with the Flamenco Vivo Carlotta Santana, compliments of the Moore County Arts Council. In the Media Center, they're not just checking out books. Mr. John Pascal is there. He's our local enthusiast and fossil collector, and they're extending their knowledge all about fossils. All over the school, students and staff are wearing blue to support autism, or they're lining the hallway.
Thank you very much for your comments. Maria Williams.
Good evening. I'd like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak this evening, and also thank you for the opportunity at the community forum last week. I spoke to 3 people which I felt were very much so listening to me, Mr. Kay from West End, Dr. Locklear, and Stacy Caldwell. It was appreciated. My name is Maria Williams. I'm from Eagle Springs. I am the mother of 3 children, Amy, a sophomore at Pinecrest, Andrew, a 6th grader at West Pine Middle School, and Alice, a 3-year-old at Bright Meadows in Seven Lakes. I came last week and this week as a concerned, frustrated parent over the redistricting of our community. Firstly, we are part of Seven Lakes in the West End area. This is where we grocery shop, we take karate, we dance, we eat out, we go to Christmas tree lightings. This is our home. Those are our people. We are part of the West End community. Last week, the superintendent had said that we may have to make new communities. Well, that's easier said than done. We are such a rural area with a small population. You need bodies in the seats in Northern Moore County. Parents there are going to charter schools over their own schools. That is not and should not be our community's problem. Secondly, the burden of transportation this would put on my family to drive in the opposite direction of our workplaces, getting off at 5 o'clock and then having to drive almost an hour to pick up a child at after-school care programs. Right now, I can be at West End, Pinecrest, or West Pine and within 20 minutes to pick up a sick child or be at a ball game. Putting us at Robbins and Elise is much further drive or bus ride. Lastly, my son has enjoyed playing with the Sandhills Patriots for the last 4 years. It's very much so involved with the Pinecrest football program. I have watched these boys from West End, Pinehurst, and Southern Pines
play, and grow up with each other with hopes to watching them all play under Friday night lights at Pinecrest. Please don't punish us and make our lives harder. This would be such a hardship on my family. I want the same opportunities for my last 2 children that my oldest had through West End, West Pine, and Pinecrest. Thank you.
Thank you. Jan Williams.
Good evening. I'm Jan Williams from Eagle Springs. I'm a grandmother to 6 grandchildren and future grands that will be greatly affected by this redistricting that is being proposed. I appreciate the opportunity to speak last week at Southern Middle and tonight. I'm going to address 4 different topics: community cohesiveness, hardships on families, balancing demographics, and safety. First of all, our farm, our church, our family, our friends, our business, our jobs are in the Eagle Springs West End community. Eagle Springs may have a different name, but has always been a part of Seven Lakes and West End. The Williams family has been a part of this community for a long time. Our parents, who would be in their late 90s now, went to school in this community. We have built our houses and chosen our jobs here to ensure that we go to the West End, West Pine, and Pinecrest schools. My husband was the first class to go through Pinecrest all 4 years and played sports there. Our son played sports there and was a part of Coach Metzger's inspiring football program. We want our grandchildren to be a part of this history. Secondly, travel would be a nightmare for all of us. On the average, our families will drive 60 to 65 miles out of their way every day versus no extra miles because the schools are on their way to work. This also leads into the issue of safety, which is of major concern this day and time. If our children get sick or have an emergency at school, we need to get to them quickly. Thirdly, you spoke of evening out the demographics in the schools. This redistricting Eagle Springs to Northmore would definitely not work. Eagle Springs is predominantly socioeconomic. West End Elementary would be, we are lower socioeconomic. West End Elementary would be left with predominantly children from 3 gated communities, taking the lower socioeconomic groups to Robbins. It seems that we were chosen because most of these families will not speak up. Most don't even know about it. And the ones I've asked are against redistricting. They do care. We learned at last week's meeting they were only talking about 55 children. This would upset a lot of people, not even really help the numbers that much. Fourthly, it appears from school report cards we'd be sent to a lower performing school. We take pride in our community schools that we've been a part of for over a century, where our children are thriving. Families in the Robbins district are choosing to go to Yari Charter for this reason, they say. This is one big reason you told us the other night that numbers are low. Why should we be the ones asked to fill these spots? This has blindsided us in Eagle Springs. Children are hearing about it. They're upset. My 8-year-old grandson was crying the other night after hearing about this at school. He thrives in his present West End Elementary School. Please put the needs of our children and parents above numbers. Put yourself in our place and reconsider this proposal and leave Eagle Springs at West End Elementary, West Pine Middle, and Pinecrest, where we belong.
Thank you.
Thank you.
John Zumwalt.
Hello there. You're going to find this hard to believe, but when I'm finished, I don't see any way that you can possibly disagree with what I'm saying. I want to talk to you, of course, about the school in Aberdeen, the new one that's being built on right in the middle of the Superfund sites, the ones where the pesticides were dumped. And lest you think that I'm telling you something that's not correct, I'd encourage you to do what I'm sure you've already done. Google Aberdeen Fund site and read about what they have to say. Now, there'll be some who may come before you or send you letters that will say to you, no one is telling us that that is for sure cleaned up, but maybe it is, maybe it isn't. And that's exactly what the EPA website says. If you call EPA and ask them, would you issue us a letter that says this place is absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, it's okay to build there? They won't give you one. You know why? Because we don't know. The studies have not yet determined. So my question to you, first let me use an analogy. If a serial killer, I don't want to carry this too far, but if a serial killer were to get out of prison and the folks told you he may be okay, but he may not, we'd like him to move in next door to you, would you say, okay, my children can play in the yard because he may be okay, but he may not. That is exactly what we're asking folks to do with this new school. This site may be okay, but it may not. And I know there are some good people on this board, some very good people. I don't understand why at least one of you has not stood up and said, let's halt this, let's stop it until we can get more clarification on this. You know, they've been looking into this thing for decades, and they still have no resolution. So what I'm here tonight to ask you to do is to forget my rhetoric, forget the things just look into it for yourselves. That's, remember, all of you have professed your love for children, and I don't doubt it for 1 second. So I'm asking you why? Would you take a chance by building a new school on this site? Thank you.
Thank you. And may I go ahead and call the next 5 people before our next speaker? If these 5 would please move to the front. Kristen Beavers, Stephanie Phillips, Courtney Ray, Jen Ray, and Lynn Antill. And now it's Cal Castleberry. You'll give them a moment to get on down front.
Sure, thank you. Thanks. So you notice how the forum here tonight is organized and there's no outbursts from frustrated parents or interruptions? It's because this process is established. It actually respects the community members who appear to let their voices be heard. As much as Dr. Grimacy says that his process at the community input meetings is fair and balanced for everyone, it is a sham process. Have you noticed every meeting getting more and more restrictive, from the increasing number of arbitrary rules to the decreasing number of comment cards available to the public? It is not a fair and balanced process where everyone has an equal chance to be heard when comment cards are taken, sorted, and then the easy and safe questions are answered while the inconvenient ones are shelved. When I brought this point up at the last input meeting at New Century as to if there was going to be an open forum, Dr. Grimacy said no, because we learned our lesson the last time. What lesson is that? That concerned parents will not let you avoid answering the questions about your unethical activity? This is, mind you, unethical activity that is conducted behind closed doors with no audio or video recording in front of his subordinate staff. Or maybe it's a lesson that we won't be dazzled by static talking points that beat around the bush. One parent in that meeting at New Century wanted to know what I had to say. Well, here it is. I would like to know why Dr. Grimacy thinks it is acceptable to state to West Pine Middle and Southern Middle staff that he intends to move, quote, 200 white kids from WPMS and move them to SMS so that the racial balance will be equal to about 67%, end quote. I want to know why in a meeting with staff at Southern Pines Elementary, Dr. Grimacy felt it prudent to state that he's going to try and reduce the high teacher turnover rate by taking 150 of those kids, referring to a racial demographic that were making trouble, and move them to McDeed's. I ask why aren't those kids being identified for help? I also ask why the teachers in Southern Pines and Aberdeen are having to take mental health days because they're on the verge of a mental breakdown. Maybe it's because of this. Does anyone know why the BOE has failed to meet their educational goals every year for the past several years by achieving only 1 out of 5 of their set goals? It seems there's a repeated pattern here of not addressing hard problems with honest solutions, but rather just moving problem sets around until the numbers look better. I asked Dr. Grimacy in closing, why are the failing children of Southern Pines and Aberdeen area being sidelined just like the parents are being sidelined in your community input meetings? For the students' sake, I think Mandy Taylor and Morgan Adams have broached the most common sense and commendable solution thus far, and they're nowhere near having a doctorate. Thank you.
Thank you. Kristen Beavers.
Okay, I'm very nervous. I was pushed to do this from many people, but I'm Kristen Beavers. I represent the entire county. I am a part of Cameron Elementary, so I'm on, the northern, whatever part, west end, I don't even know. But I'm going to be honest, I am on the advisory committee for the redistricting, and I am proud to represent Cameron, but I am also proud to represent the entire county and all the students in it. Even though Cameron is not being affected greatly by that, most of our students that are there, I mean, the majority of them are going to stay there, and but we are going to gain a few, some more at some point down the road from VAS. But I do know a lot of other areas in our community or in our county are being greatly affected, and I sympathize with them because that change is hard. But I also want to speak on behalf of the advisory committee. It is a very tough process. But I am honored that the Board of Education gave that process to a group of people to do that and to seek that advice. Sorry, I'm like so shaky, my knees are going to give out. But I have reached out to several people in our community from other schools to hear those problems that they're having with the process in their areas, because I am in Area 1 and I am not familiar with a lot of the issues or the dynamics of different things in those other areas. So I have reached out to them, and I feel like I'm bringing those voices to the board, or to the advisory committee, and trying to get those things evened out or whatever we can to the best of our ability. I feel like I'm rambling, but I just want to say thank you to the board. I support you. I know a lot of people in this county do support what you guys are doing, and I do feel like you do have the best interest for the students in our county. Unfortunately, we have a very large county. There are a lot of students and a lot of families that are affected by a lot of the decisions that are made. So unfortunately, with this amount of families and students, it is going to be hard to evenly please everybody. But I just want to show that I am out here to support you guys, and I will continue supporting you guys. And as far as the process that you guys are going with the redistricting, I think you guys are doing the best possible with this amount of people involved in the county that are going to be affected by this. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephanie Phillips. Stephanie Phillips.
Distracted, sorry. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. I come to you tonight not only as the proud principal of Pinecrest High School, but as a current Pinecrest parent and a former Southern Pines Primary, Southern Pines Elementary, Aberdeen Elementary, Southern Middle School, and West Pine Middle School parent. Both of my children have great stories from each school that they will forever cherish. The lovely second grade teacher at Southern Pines Primary who realized my child struggled in reading but excelled in math, so she made sure to put him in an advanced math group. The office staff, custodians, and bus drivers at each of those schools that still know my children by name and continue to send them birthday wishes and inquire about their well-being. The fourth grade team at Southern Pines Elementary that made sure my child, who was new to the area and sounded a little different than everyone else, was taken care of as she struggled in that transition. The Aberdeen school team that works hard every day, from the custodians to the teachers, to make sure every child has a champion and partner, made sure to take my struggling reader under their wing and go above and beyond to keep him motivated. The Southern Middle School PE teacher who sent the single mother an email to let her know my little girl made his day every morning as he walked into the cafeteria. The Southern Middle School TSA sponsor and CTE teacher who captured the strengths of my child and exposed her to the endless possibilities of academic competitions and technology. The sixth grade social studies teacher who made history fun for a science-minded kid, so much so that she called me immediately when she saw her recently on a jumbotron at an athletic event. The West Pine Middle School team that made sure to look out for my child as he entered a new feeder school with few acquaintances, and the sixth grade ELA teacher who had him joining reading circles. The great CTE teacher gave my son an electrical nut on the first day of school, and he still has it today because of the personal story attached connected to personal responsibility. That man became my son's go-to for support during some very tough middle school days. I tell you all this to say that it's not all about letter grades and programs. It's about so much more. It's about the personal connections we make with students every day. It's about the life lessons learned along with the academic progress of our students. It's about the challenges children face and how we help them to develop the skills and mindset to overcome those challenges. Every one of our feeder schools pushes our students to be the best they can be socially, emotionally, and in academics, athletics, and the arts. Every one of our schools are great places to learn, and that is coming from a parent and a principal that gets to see the outcome of our feeder schools' hard and loving work every day. Thank you.
Courtney Ray.
I just want to say I go to Southern Pines Primary, and it's a great place to be. My name is Courtney Ray, and I am 8 years old. I just want to say how much I love my school, how it might not look. Now it might not look that good, but it was what. But I just want to say how much the teachers and everybody is nice. And there are really good teachers. When I was in first grade, I was a C when I began the year. With my first grade teacher, Miss Osterman, got me up all the way to a level J. And ever since, I've been doing great. And today, I'm in second grade, and I am at a level L. Our teachers are so nice and thankful. I am thankful for all of these teachers. They are so nice and caring. Once I told my teacher I hurt my ankle at gymnastics, and she said, I'll send a picture to the nurse, Casey, Miss Casey, the nurse. Because she was so caring for me, my friend Cooper, who is an AIG student at my school, set a good example for me by doing his homework. Well, we were waiting for his sister in the pickup line at Southern Middle School. I said to myself, he's a great role model. So I did my homework with him while waiting for his sister. I just want to say thank you to all the teachers and thank you, Miss Wagner. And I just want to say, my name is Courtney Ray, and I go to Southern Pines Primary. Thank you for your time.
Next up would be Jen Ray.
I hope she made it under 3 minutes.
She did.
I first want to say I was shaken more than my daughter. I had no idea what she was going to say today. She jumped to sign up before I did and prepped her speech on her iPad out in the waiting area. I was quite nervous. She can say a lot of things. But I'm also very proud of what she said. Today, I'm actually speaking on behalf of Laura Nicholson, who is not able to be here today. She says, my name is Laura Nicholson, and I have a kindergartner student at Southern Pines Primary School. I'd like to tell the community why SPP is a great place to be. Unfortunately, my husband is deployed, and 3 sitters couldn't make it, so Jen is speaking for me tonight. She gives a shout out to me. Thank you, Laura. I know she's watching online. Now to the good stuff. Here is why anyone should be excited to attend Southern Pines Primary. We should be excited that our kindergarten teachers have been instructional in bringing play back into the school classroom. Nationwide, the trend has been to push play aside and focus on core subject. Although our teachers teach the core standards, they allow methods that is now reading at the and now her student is now reading at the 2nd and 3rd grade level on her own. What does, let's see, sorry, the writing's very small and I'm wearing bifocals. It says, what does that look like? Teaching the kids silly songs and motions to remember the sounds of alphabet. Teaching not only the kids, but the parents how to talk to their kids about their learning and how to encourage, not correct them at this stage. We should be excited that our school focuses on kindness and empathy. I love hearing the songs that my daughter comes home with and the teacher comes home with and teaches my younger kids about. They use color me kindness, and the kids are excited to celebrate what they are kind to each other, what they are kind to each other about, which shifts school culture to focus on kindness rather than competition. I knew my daughter was kind, but I firmly believe the focus on kindness curriculum has developed her sense of compassion or empathy in ways I could never do. Since the group dynamics are at play in a public school setting. Our school has a healthy mix of students from different backgrounds, socioeconomical status, and race. I appreciate she's been able to learn empathy and kindness. She goes on to say,
Ms. Ray?
yes, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, you've run out of time.
And I'm sorry, Laura, I didn't finish your message. But she does approve of the board
Ms.
and
Ray?
their
Email
efforts.
it to us.
Would you please email us the rest of your
I will,
remarks?
thank you. My apologies.
May we bring the next 5 speakers on down before Ms. Antill? David Antill, Keegan Foyles, Catherine Chow, Martin Sepko, Anna Hagedorn, and Christina Barnes.
All right, redistricting is always contentious. However, I expected that we, the residents of Moore County, could demonstrate a certain level of civility. Unfortunately, the tactics used by some are disappointingly similar to that which we see in Washington. At the recent Draft 2 meeting at Southern Middle, Ms. Swallen Miller gave the welcome and introduction for the meeting, and a parent behind me kept making snide comments. Since I came to the meeting to hear what was being presented and not the commentary provided by other parents, I turned around and said, "Let her speak." To which my fellow West Pine Elementary parent tells me to shut up and she can say whatever she wants. Well, that pretty much set the tone for the night, as the heckling, rudeness, and disrespect from a handful of parents permeated the entire meeting. And I find this very sad, but at one point I actually felt comforted knowing there was a resource officer present, because it appeared some parents have become so unhinged about redistricting that I fear they may become violent. I wish I could say the meeting was an isolated event. However, the messages I've seen over social media confirm that this is not the case. The belittling nicknames, the personal attacks, harassment, and general disrespect are appalling. Someone even suggested that parents show up to harass board members and our superintendent at their homes. Moore County, this is unacceptable. We are better than this. These are our neighbors, fellow parents and grandparents, members of our churches, and professionals in our community. They're not sending our kids off to slave labor camps. Instead, they are proposing that kids and their neighbors attend schools that may be closer to their house or are less crowded to better distribute the students in our county, so let's show them some respect. I've got kids who will be affected by this too. Do I want them or their friends to have to switch schools? Well, of course not. Who does? However, we're opening 4 new schools, 3 of which are in new locations. That, combined with differences in utilization, means redistricting is necessary. And in looking at Draft 2, I can tell they've been listening to parents, because some of the changes made address traffic pattern concerns and allowable transfers for 5th, 8th, 11th, and 12th graders. I mean, ultimately, I may not be happy with their final decision. However, I understand and respect the process. And in talking with friends, I've learned most parents feel similarly, and it's just a handful giving Pinehurst parents a bad reputation. And I understand that change is hard. I remember a teacher once said, one of the only things you can count on in life is change, because nothing stays the same, so it's how you handle change that matters. We as parents have the perfect opportunity to teach our children how to handle change. Will we teach them to pick up pitchforks and kick and scream, throwing away all rules of civility? Or will we teach our kids to be engaged citizens, voice concerns in a respectable manner, and recognize the possibility that change might actually result in something positive? Thank you.
Thank you. David Antill.
Hi, I'm David, a fourth grader from West Pine Elementary on their Odyssey of the Mind team. I want to tell you what I think about switching schools. I started at Pinehurst Elementary for kindergarten and first grade in the year-round program. When the program ended, I switched to West Pine Elementary for second grade because my parents didn't want my sisters and I to be at separate schools. I didn't want to leave Pinehurst Elementary because I was used to it and had lots of friends there. However, I felt more relaxed when I learned that some of my friends were switching to West Pine Elementary too. I actually had 3 other year-round students in my new class at West Pine. At first it was hard, but then I got into a routine and got used to it. I'd say it only took about a week to get used to the new routine. By Friday, I knew most of the kids in my class. Although I miss seeing my Pinehurst Elementary friends every day at school, we've remained friends and have continued to play soccer and now basketball together. And I'm sure you're not surprised that we play Fortnite too. The good thing about switching schools is that I have made new friends and met new people. If I stayed at Pinehurst Elementary, I would have never met some of my closest friends now, nor would I be going to Michigan State for the World Finals for Odyssey of the Mind. I feel like switching schools has been a good thing for me. I have good friends at both schools, and I'm not afraid of which middle school I go to. I will go because I know it'll be new for other people too, and wherever I end up going, I'll be okay because I will have friends coming with me. I want my classmates to know that a lot of kids are going through this too, and we're doing it together, and you'll be okay because you will be able to keep your old friends and make new friends too. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Keegan Foyles.
Good evening. My name is Keegan Foyles, and as a Southern Middle School graduate, I would like to tell you why going to Southern Middle School is not a burden, but rather an advantage. I am now a senior at Pinecrest High School. I am going on a full scholarship to Methodist University next year. I have been offered multiple academic, athletic, and music scholarships as a Southern Middle alum. Many of my classmates from Southern Middle have been extremely successful in high school, getting accepted into schools such as the University of Pennsylvania, Duke, William & Mary, Clemson, and many other top schools in North Carolina and the United States. At Southern Middle, I had some of the best teachers that fostered my love of learning and pushed me to surpass my assumed limitations. English teachers like Mr. and Mrs. Matthews, science teachers like Mrs. Yeager, and math teachers like Miss Flannery, who taught me Math 1, a 9th grade course in 8th grade. Southern Middle School fosters an environment of creativity because of its diversity. With the richness of diversity comes a platform of higher learning, tolerance, and empathy. And once a child gets to Pinecrest, it doesn't matter what middle school they went to. The two schools blend almost perfectly during the school year. It no longer matters if you are a wildcat or a dragon, and I believe that is a point that most people aren't getting. There is absolutely nothing that sets West Pine graduates apart from Southern. There is an even mix of both schools in standard, honors, and AP classes. Nobody keeps count of who is from what school in AP Calculus. As I myself have recently gone through the college application process, I have learned that colleges do not care where your child goes to middle school or even high school. What they care about is what your child makes of their own experiences. There's a stigma about Southern Middle students, and those students know it. They know that Southern is looked down upon. And they know right now about this debate, about the redistricting. They are watching adults that they look up to fight tooth and nail to make sure their kids don't have to go to Southern Middle. Because of all this debating, it's just increasing the stereotype that West Pine children are more successful, which, whether you realize it or not, hurts every Southern Middle student. It is as harmful as it is inaccurate. Please be cognizant that our children are watching and learning from you as this discussion continues. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry, next up would be Mrs. Chow.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Good evening, Board. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Catherine Chow. I have my eldest son who goes to Union Pines. I have a student at Sand Hills Farm Life, and I also have a preschooler. I support the board with the redistricting. I have never before seen such an open process where they've gone and they've heard feedback from the community, and I truly believe that is what sets this board apart from any other board that I have ever been to. I support you with this redistricting, and they have our best interests in mind. The change that is going to occur because of this redistricting is obviously setting a lot of nervous reactions, and that's understandable, but we also must remember that, just as a previous speaker had said, our children are watching, and they're watching us handle this change, so we need to be positive for our kids. For us to be so concrete in our thinking that no matter where we live, we are just going to always attend that one school and never have to make any changes is very unrealistic. We need to be good role models for our children and show them that they can embrace the change. As far as the school report cards, which I've heard somebody had mentioned, as much as we would like to believe they are tied to actual academic progress, they're tied more to money and poverty than they are to performance. And it's a very sad state of affairs. As a military family, we had looked at those report cards, school report cards, when deciding where we would live. And once the parents had gotten together and realized that they are tied more to poverty than anything else, we just said, that's trash. We would rather go and be at a good school that supports our children than be at a school that has a good report card. I think it's more about what the parents make of it and how we prepare our children to embrace the change. So let's be good role models for our children and show them that it is possible to embrace change and make the best of it no matter where they go to school. Thank you.
Martin Sepko.
Yeah, my name is Martin Sepko. I appreciate the opportunity to speak before the board. I appreciate all the work you're doing with the redistricting patterns, and I just want to speak on the redistricting of Area 1 and Area 2 of the map as regards to the 21-22 school year. I understand all the thought process that goes into this. Just with the line as it pertains to the western boundary of J. Dowdy Road, as it goes through there, it's kind of an irregular boundary that goes down through there, and where it's drawn, it's only a quarter mile off J. Dowdy Road. Just moving that over a mile picks up enrollment by about 5 students for Union Pines High School for the 21-22 school year. But just being at that irregular boundary where it's drawn at, usually that's by subdevelopments or housing or whatever, by population. In regards to that, it's pretty much timberland through there. There's nothing where that line's drawn. So if it moves over a mile, it's not impacting the population by about 5 students. And all these students, too, are car riders, so it doesn't affect traffic patterns so much. So being able to just move that over a mile will greatly impact the lives, the future of these students, I believe. Just with just being able to have that school pride. You know how it is growing up. You know who your high school is and who your rivals are. Even though we're in a small county, we still have our rivals, our next door. And being able to, for these students to be able to keep that school pride is pretty important to them. And also as well, just be able to keep their peer group as they enter into high school and not have to kind of go into a new area in there. So just being able to move that line over a mile will greatly impact these students. And where it's drawn at, like I said, it's kind of going through timberland. So road doesn't have any real effect as far as population or subdivisions or anything. It's kind of an irregular boundary too, so I'm not exactly sure how that come to be, but if you would just, if you could just really look at that western boundary as it pertains to J. Dowdy Road. That's all I had.
Thank you. Anna Hagenoord.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Anna Hagedorn. I'm a senior at Pinecrest High School and the student body president there as well. And I thought I would come to share a younger perspective on the events that have transpired over the past few months and respond to some of the concerns that have been voiced. I have been heavily invested in this process since the beginning. I was a participant in the Unity Forum at Pinecrest. I have contributed by speaking up when I feel it's necessary, and most importantly, I have listened. I have been to most of the meetings and have heard every argument for and against redistricting. And even after doing so, I stand firmly in agreement with this process. I have watched the discussions on this topic turn from helpful and constructive to divisive and schismatic. This is not an easy process for either party, and name-calling and trying to degrade others is ugly and unproductive. Redistricting is something that needs to happen, and it is. I am dismayed by the tones and types of attacks that people have made. I stand here as proof that your children will not only be okay, but they will find the support and fulfillment that they need at any of Moore County's schools. I was one of 380 children impacted by the closure of Academy Heights Elementary. The school was one of the top performing in the district, and its closure due to budget issues sparked the same type of controversy I see today. I remember attending meetings with my parents and hearing some of the same concerns being voiced. One thing that rings true today that I'd like to share with everyone is something that the former superintendent said. If your child is doing well and is high performing, they will do well anywhere they go because of your support and involvement. At the time, I didn't really understand what she meant, but having lived through the process and thrived because of it, and because of having to change schools in my 4th grade year, I'd like to reassure you, your children will be just fine. After the closure of Academy Heights, its students were spread all over the district, and this year, its graduating class will be attending schools such as Vanderbilt, Duke, Cornell, NC State, UNC, and many others. Each of the children affected by this can attest to the fact that they benefited from the change and diversity that they were exposed to. One of the lessons everyone learned after this experience was that we had just torn apart our community with disagreement over nothing. After all is said and done, it's up to us whether we decide to stay on this destructive course or realize that we cannot keep going on like this. I believe that more important than anything is that we become a united front. Redistricting is happening, and the only way to make the best out of it for everyone is to work together. Thank you.
Thank you. Christina Barnes. Is she here? Christina Barnes. She is our last speaker, last one signed up to speak. So that would conclude our public address.
I just want to thank everybody who took the time to come out tonight for public address. I do have one comment. We normally do not respond to comments in public address, but I felt like there was one issue that required me to provide some information. One of the speakers talked about the Aberdeen Elementary School being built on a Superfund site. I will tell you that it is not being built on a Superfund site, and it was discussed at a board meeting in May 22nd, 2017. I believe it was 1 hour and 22 minutes. If you wanted to look at that point of the video, at the 1 hour and 22 minute mark, you'll see our discussion and information about that. With that, I believe we have a short break, and we'll be back in 10 minutes? 5 minutes? As soon as we can. 5 minutes. Okay. Thank you. Test? Ooh. All right, I'm going to call the meeting back to order.
Madam Chairman, with your permission,
Yes, please.
I'd like to invite Mr. Roger Leeson forward to stand in for Mr. John Barath. We have an item that just, no, actually, this is the, we haven't adjusted this one. This one is just as the board remembers it from last week. Board members, if I might, Roger, to just facilitate this, and then if I leave something out, you let me know. Acquisition of property for construction of the Camp Easter Road roundabout at the McNeeds Creek Elementary School. You'll remember that you placed this on board action because there were two separate motions. Okay? And so I do not believe there's any new information. Is that correct, Roger?
That is correct.
So we're happy to answer any questions, but there is nothing new to add since Mr. Barath's presentation last week. The superintendent is prepared to offer recommendation on each of these separate motions if the board is prepared. Otherwise, you can direct your questions to Mr. Leeson. I'm ready.
All right, so there are two motions that we'll need to make. Do you want to make the recommended motion?
Let me make the recommendation, Madam Chair. There are two motions. First, the superintendent recommends that the school board consider a motion to accept the proposed deed, utility easement, and temporary construction easement from the Roman Catholic Diocese of Raleigh for the purchase price of $60,000.
So moved. Is there a second? There's a first and a second. Is there any discussion or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
And Madam Chairman, you prepared for the second recommendation?
Yes, please.
Happy to offer it. The superintendent recommends that the school board consider a motion to accept the proposed deed and utility easement from Knollwood Partners at no cost to the school system.
Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
There's a first and a second. Is there any discussion or questions about the second motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Dr. Grimacy.
With your permission, Madam Chair?
Yes, next item.
Second board action item, bid results for water sewer cabling, electrical, and fire alarm connection to the modular classrooms at temporary Pinehurst Elementary School. There is an adjustment to this recommendation. Last week, Mr. Barath offered a recommendation that Chisholm Electric be approved in the amount of $78,840 to provide the installation of electrical services to the temporary Pinehurst Elementary School. He also made a recommendation regarding the fire alarm system. Upon final inspection of the fire alarm, or final review of the fire alarm system recommendation, the fire chief and assistant fire chief of Pinehurst, of the village of Pinehurst, noted to Mr. Barath that the specifications that had been issued exceeded those that were required by them for the school and exceeded the specifications for all of our other schools. They told him that we could experience a savings by eliminating the voice activation portion of the alarm system. And Roger, you're prepared to provide some more details on that, I would hope.
Yeah, that's correct. There'll be
hang on just a second, I'll finish and then I'll turn it over to you. And so we come before you tonight with the chair's permission in putting this under board action, eliminating the recommendation for the fire alarm and bringing only the recommendation for electrical, with the plan of bringing back a recommendation for the fire alarm that is in line with current specifications for all of our schools and in accordance with the approval of the fire chief and assistant fire chief of the village of Pinehurst. Roger, anything to add to enhance that?
Well, we had a lack of bids for the plumbing contract, and we're already in the position of being in a rebid and re-advertising situation. So the idea is to also include the fire alarm with that.
We come back with plumbing and fire alarm.
Plumbing and fire alarm, and adopt the value adjustment recommended by the fire marshal.
And this would significantly or reduce the costs in some way?
Yes, we believe significantly.
Okay.
Significantly enough that it's worth rebidding and going through that process and coming back in June.
Yes.
And so, again, what was the bid amount for the electrical? Was that?
Ms. Thompson, then the superintendent's recommendation, and Roger, you correct me if I'm wrong on this. Superintendent recommends that the school board consider a motion to approve the award of bid for the electrical installation at the temporary Pinehurst Elementary modular units to Chisholm Electric in the amount of $78,840. It's that simple.
Okay. So, second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions?
Just glad to note that we had a reduction in
We'll
cost.
take all the reductions, yes.
Exactly.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Mr. Leeson. Appreciate that. Madam Chairman, with your permission,
Yes.
I'll
last
invite
item.
Dr. Seth Powers to come forward. Since the work session last week, we learned that there was a field trip request that came in a little bit late, but nevertheless is a worthy trip, and we're glad to bring it to you. Dr.
Yes,
Powers.
and as you learned tonight, we have a number of our students who qualified to go to Michigan State for the World Odyssey of the Minds competition. We had one school. We did not receive the information in time to get that trip approved by the board on the work session on last Monday. So tonight, West Pine Middle School is asking to be approved to attend the Odyssey of the Minds World Academic Competition at Michigan State University on May 23rd through 26, 2019.
I think that's great, Seth. Hopefully they'll go well to the top.
I'm sure.
Do we need to approve?
Superintendent recommends approval.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried 7-0. Thank you, Dr. Powers.
Madam Chairman, the administration has no further recommendations.
Thank you very much. This is time for board comments as the last item of the day. I would like to have chair privilege to go first. Is that all right? Okay. First of all, I would really like to thank all of those that did come out today. Again, many of them have left already, but I appreciate hearing from the public and getting their input. I would like to use my comments tonight, though, to offer my sincere thanks to all the staff and consultants for their utmost professionalism and tireless work over the past several months with the student assignment plan. Student assignment planning is never easy, and it requires focus on multiple factors. It requires focus on data, and it requires community and public input. On behalf of the board, I offer my thanks for the care and structure that you are all bringing to this process. And I appreciate the time and all the work that you all have put in, so thank you. I also want to remind the public about how we got to these plans. Board directed staff to come up with a student assignment plan to accommodate 4 new and larger elementary schools being built with public bonds to alleviate overcrowding and replace aging facilities. Given their larger size and the fact that 3 of the schools are in new locations, with 2 of them in Southern Pines, lines needed to be redrawn. At the same time, the board directed staff to look at utilization and balance issues across elementary and middle schools. With increasing membership in the southern schools and decreasing membership in the northern schools, this would now be the time to address utilization across the entire county in order to make the best use of taxpayer dollars in all our schools. The board adopted 4 guiding principles to help steer this important work: balance, planning, efficiency, and community. When adopting these principles, the board understood that there was no intended priority between these principles and that they may in fact overlap and conflict. We are starting to see this now. The board also adopted a timeline and a structure for this process to include multiple opportunities for public review and input on the draft plans themselves. It's important to note that the board is seeking input on the draft reassignment plans itself and not on the structure, timeline, process, and principles already decided upon by the board. The purpose of the public review and input is to ensure that individual concerns and comments about the specific plan that is being looked at that time could be collected, synthesized, and used to inform revisions and updates. These public input meetings are not designed as debates or open forums about the decisions to redistrict, nor the process we are using. Instead, these meetings are designed like planning charrettes in order to manage large numbers of participants and to give the public time to study the draft plans and provide input or ask questions based on their individual circumstances. Finally, I do want to thank all the parents and community members who have participated constructively in this process to date, either in person or electronically. We have just concluded 4 community input meetings on the first 2 drafts of the plans, and I didn't sit there with a counter, but it looked to me, and from the reporting by the pilot, that we had over 500 individual participants in the charrette-style format to review the draft plans up close to provide comments, ask questions, or offer suggestions pertinent to their individual circumstances, similar to this gentleman who was talking about an individual line that you heard today. Staff formally reviewed approximately, and again, I wasn't counting, but it seemed to me about 60 to 80 comments or questions publicly in these meetings to be able to answer certain questions in front of everyone, and many more one-on-one during the gallery walk of the charrette. Simultaneously, staff is collecting many comments from parents to community members on the online portal. These comments and questions are informing changes or updates to the draft plan and also serve to enhance the frequently asked questions section of the website. I will say that the majority of the individuals that I have been in contact with have been courteous and respectful in their tone, questions, and concerns. There are, of course, a few that have not. The board understands that student assignment planning is challenging, and we are grateful for those who have approached each of these meetings professionally and with respect to staff, board members, and to each other. Those are my comments. Any other comments? You are welcome. None?
Nope. Don't have any.
All right. With that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0.